Hello everyone, welcome to the next video of C programming. In this video, we will discuss a new concept that is known as your nested if else. Now, in the previous video, we have already discussed what is if else, what is if and multiple if. Then what is the need of nested if else? Now, to understand this, you have to first understand the keyword. What do you mean by nest? Now, nest has come from the word that is the home of a particular bird. Now you have to follow the process how a bird designs its home. It gets different types of materials, ties everything, keeps inside it, and finally it creates a strong home for itself. Okay. Now in nested if else, what we will do, you have to keep a pair of if else. Okay. Inside another if or another else or inside both also. That means one pair of if else present inside another if else is known as your nested if else. Okay. So by following the principle of creation of home of a bird, now you have to write some program that we need to keep if else inside another if else. Okay. So just to override or overlook the particular concept, this nested if else is used to handle multiple conditions for evaluation in the most important one, hierarchical or dependent manner. That means the inner if block will execute or not, that depends on the outer if block. The if block of else will execute or not, that depends on the condition of the outer if block. That means there must be some dependency between the conditions, and in that case you can apply nested if else. Okay. If you go for the syntax, now you can check here. The outer if block will be evaluated. So either it will give you true or it will give you false. Okay. If it returns true, that means the control will enter to the if block. So let us assume that this is my outer if block and this is my inner if block. So if the outer if block gives you true, then the inner if block will be evaluated. Obviously, the inner block will be evaluated either true or it will be evaluated as false. So if again it returns true, that means the control will enter to the inner if block. Its all statements will be executed and it will go out. But if it returns false, that means the control will enter to the else block and it will execute the statement, it will go out. But what happens if the outer if block will return false? That means the control will enter to the else block and its own or the local one will, if block will be evaluated. Okay. If it returns true, that means the if condition or the if block will be executed and then goes out. If it returns false, then the control will enter to the else block and it will execute the statement, it will go out. Okay. So the entire example, whatever the syntax we have discussed, you have realized that there must be some dependency between the outer if block, inner if block, and the else. Okay. So let us write a simple program so that you can understand easily. Okay. So what you'll write here, you will find the smallest number among three numbers. Okay. So that means let us understand that we have three values, number one, number two, and number three. So first condition I'll provide कि number one is less than number two. True or false? If true, that means I am sure that number one is less than number two. So to confirm number one is actually the smallest among three, I need to check number one is less than number three or not. Okay. So that means there is a difference or dependency between outer if block and the inner if block. If this condition is also true, that means number one is again less than number three. That means number one is less from both. So number one will obviously be less. Okay. But if this condition is false, if this is false, That means I'll come to the else of this particular if. So already I am inside the outer if block. Means number 1 is less than number 2. But number 1 is not less than number 3. That means who is less? Number 3 is less than number 1. So that means number 3 is the smallest one. But if this condition is false, means its corresponding else block will be executed. That means number 2 is less than number 1. Okay. I need to check again number 2 is less than number 3 or not. If yes, that means number 2 is smallest because number 2 is also less than number 3. But if this condition is false, means what? Number 3 is less than number 2 and I am in else means number 2 is less than number 1. So that means number 3 is smallest. Okay. So this is what actually the dependency. If you'll see the case of dependency, the inner if block, inner else block is dependent on the outer if block. The else block dependent on outer if block. The inner if else dependent on outer if block. So that means as you are representing the pair of if else inside another pair of if else, that's why this is known as your nested if else. Okay. So let us write down the program. So as per our requirement, I need how many variables? Obviously 3 numbers. Okay. So let us declare number 1, number 2, number 3. I'll take the input for all 3 numbers. Number 1, number 2, number 3. Okay. Now let us give the condition. What condition? Now if number 1 less than number 2, if it is true, I'll give one more condition. Number 1 is less than number 3 or not. Okay. If both the conditions are true, that means smallest is percentage D and that is my number 1. Okay. So this statement I may need repeatedly. So let us copy it. But if that condition is false, means outer if block is true, but the inner if block is false. Means who is the smallest one? Now obviously number 3. Okay. But if the outer if block is false, that means I'll come to the corresponding else block. Okay. So if I am inside the else block, I am sure number 2 is less than number 1. Okay. So that means again I'll put a condition here. Okay, number 2 is less than number 3 or not. If yes, then who is the smallest one? Now obviously number 2 is the smallest one. But if the inner if block is false, that means number 3 is smaller than number 2. So number 3 will be the smallest one. Okay. So just to understand, if else is present inside another if is known as your nested if else. If else present inside another else is known as your nested if else. Okay. So let us compile and execute. So let us give 3 values 23, 56 and 12. So who is the smallest one? At 12. Okay. So this is what the simplest approach to understand nested if else. Okay. So I'll suggest you have to understand the syntax, then understand the program that you have done and rewrite the program by yourself understanding step by step. Okay, so that you will get a clear picture of the concept of nested if else. Okay, so try some more programs by using nested if else to clear your doubts. Okay. So thank you everyone for watching this video.